What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Progress Always, where we're here to build the fittest leaders, alignment first, and progress always. Mike Andrews here with my boy Will, the founder of Ascendance and CEO of Covenant Labs. He's championing holistic approach to emerging technology, and with his latest venture, Covenant Labs, Will is building the foundational infrastructure for encrypted sovereign AI, enabling individuals and organizations to actually own their AI models. First and foremost, man, shout out to Nico Rapkalis and AI Surfer for putting us in the same room. That's where I was introduced to you, your essence, and your mission. And I have so many questions as a layman in AI. And right before we got on, I confirmed what I took from you energetically is that your mission in AI is deeply infused with the work that you've done on self. So I want to touch on all that stuff, but before we go there, man, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, likewise, man. Appreciate you having me, and definitely shout out to Nico. He is the connector of connectors for sure.
Dude, we got to share a couple of days at a workshop with Michael R. Hunter. I don't know if he runs in your circles or not, but I told him as we were parting ways after that event, man, that dude expands rooms, and he's a dope soul to be around, man.
Absolutely. He is a brother for sure.
How'd you guys connect?
We met at an event, surprise. We met at another event, but we just hit it off because I think, you find those people in those rooms where the conversation goes a few layers deeper than in every other conversation. And so there's always, one or two of those where it's like, okay, we can have a real conversation here. And it was like that with us right away. So we just,
Have you leveraged his Vision Espresso process at all?
I have done a Vision Espresso. I've done a couple of Vision Espressos. It's a powerful process for sure. And we're collaborating on a few things on the back end. We've been talking on and off about his AI stuff. He's got some really cool things in the pipeline. So, but his Vision Espresso process is powerful for centering you on that, that vision of the future that you're moving towards. So.
Yeah, if you have no idea what we're talking about, go back to Nico's episode that he did on Progress Always, where we unpacked my Vision Espresso for the first time live in that conversation. And you'll see exactly what we're talking about. A massive experience. And, he is pioneering personal growth in this age on a whole nother level, man. So it's just really cool to be in this container with you guys as you are just pioneering how we look at AI. Because there's like two ends of the spectrum that I experience. It's like the doom and gloom. It's going to replace everything, run for your lives. And then it's like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And it's going to bring creativity back to the fold for humanity. I feel like you're on this end of the spectrum over here with creation and innovation. But I want to double back real quick because of this infusion of your personal growth and development journey. Where did you have your first introduction to work on self as opposed to the externalizing that most of society does?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lifelong process, of course, as it is for everyone. But I guess probably in my early 20s would be when maybe even my late teens, when I went through a bout of severe depression and anxiety. And, before that, I didn't really have any, what you would call awareness of self, right? I wasn't aware. We learn in meditation and things of this nature, right? Like you are not your thoughts. You are not this voice in your head. And as a teenager, before that time, I didn't understand that, right? And it was through a dark time around 18, 19, when I came through that. And on the other end of it, I found prayer, I found meditation, I found yoga, I found a few different practices that really started to kick me off on a journey of the thing that I thought I was isn't actually me. And there's a whole nother world of growth that's possible that I really just couldn't see before that time.
Mm-hmm. And of all those practices, I'm assuming that you have an integrated practice of your own where you've taken all of those things and you manage them on a pretty consistent basis. What is the highest leverage tool that you've accumulated over that time?
I mean, I think where I'm at now in life, what I've learned is that the Holy Spirit is really the biggest superpower that I can tap into for me personally. And there's many practices that have been extremely beneficial to me. I'm a yoga teacher. Yoga was a big part of my journey. Meditation, all of these things that really force you again to become more aware of yourself, so that you can actually have the perspective to work on yourself. Because you can't really work on yourself seriously if you're overly identified with your thoughts or your ego self, right? There's been other things. There's been psychedelics. There's been many different practices and modalities that have helped me on my journey. But where I'm at right now, if I were to choose one thing alone in the desert, I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna go to the Holy Spirit. So
yeah, did you find Christ? I'm assuming. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you find? I find the journey fascinating. In that, did you find Christ on the back end of everything else, and that was the truth, quote unquote, that you fell to, or was that something that you validated through these other experiences?
That's a really good question. I would say probably a little bit of both, and it was something where, like many of us who grew up in America, I grew up going to church or going in a church going family. And I experienced a lot of things that were painful in my teenage years, and didn't always have the best home life, and didn't always have the best experience with churches. And so I came into my 20s and I was like, I'm going to figure it out for myself. Right. And I think, and I have no regrets about that path. I don't say that as like, oh, I was wrong, or, I definitely have been wrong, but I think sometimes you have to go through the process of taking ownership of your own path. Like if you're just going off of what someone else told you, it's not really, whether you're a Christian or otherwise, it's not really yours. Right. And so, so in that sense, it was some level of validation where I always kept coming back to like, I love the Tao Te Ching. Is a beautiful book, but it's a more beautiful book in the light of understanding Christ, right? Like it makes more sense. It logically makes more sense if I'm like, oh, the Tao is speaking about what Christ is, right? Or, so there was some level of validation where it was like everything makes more sense. My reality is more ordered and structured when I have Christ in it versus when I don't. And when I haven't had Christ in it, it's lended itself to more chaos. And then there is kind of that foundational falling of like, you strip yourself away of everything else. And then it's like, what's left. Right. And I haven't found, and I'm always open to being proven wrong. I'm not saying this because you just have to believe it and, just trust me, bro. It's like, I have not found another cornerstone to stand on that is greater than Christ. And I think I haven't found anyone who's been able to give me another cornerstone of reality to base your faith or your life on that's been greater than Christ. And so I rock with Christ.
I dig it, man. I dig it. So in your personal journey, where did your affinity for tech fall in? Like, is your path like, I came up in the YouTube generation and like the internet has always been a part of my universe, or are you like me where it showed up one day and it's like, well, okay, I've had to embrace every evolution as opposed to like, oh yeah, that's the way it's always been.
Yeah. I would say probably a little bit more of the former for me. I guess you could call it the YouTube, the Google generation. I was doing Gmail chat in middle school. It was, maybe that tells you where, I don't know if anyone did Gmail chat, but I went to this middle school called Cyber Village. It was like a hybrid school where we actually did school at home for 2 days a week online. And so it was like all about tech and like this kind of non-traditional model. And through that, there was a lot of focus on technology. And, so that definitely kicked off my love for it. I've always been kind of never like formally a hacker where I'm like Mr. Robot kind of a thing, but I've always been kind of a hacker of systems. Like I always like to look at whatever game I'm playing and be like, where do I break this? Where do I, find
Okay.
the third door, the thing that everyone else isn't seeing? I want to innovate in that direction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hack or innovate, sometimes a bit of both. And so, yeah, I've always had this affinity for technology, and I just get bored easily. Like if I'm solving a problem that I feel like someone else can solve better than me, I'm like, it's not the best use of my time, and I should be doing something else. And that's been a curse at times, but also a gift as well.
Where is it? Where's that school?
It's in Minnesota where I grew up.
Yep. What brought you down to Arizona?
It was a couple things. It was definitely kind of a divine calling in some sense to be down here. I didn't fully understand why I moved, but there were some logical reasons. One, I spent 28 years in Minnesota, and I have a heart for Minneapolis. I love the city. My family's there. And there's a lot of great people there doing great work, but it is kind of a dark place right now. And it's also a slow, like spiritually dark. And it's also a very slow moving place if you're an emerging tech, unless you're trying to be in, big pharma or med tech. So for what I was doing, it wasn't the best environment, not because there weren't good people, but it just wasn't the best environment for being in a fast moving kind of entrepreneurial space. And, Arizona felt like it was, I knew people moving here from all over the world. There's a lot of young, entrepreneurial, innovative people that are flocking here. It's very open. It's, things move a lot fast. Business moves faster. And so it felt like a big space with a lot of opportunity. But it also wasn't as defined as, say, a New York or a Miami or an LA, where it's like you're going to get lost in the sea because the culture's kind of already got its gatekeepers and everything. So
right. That's so interesting because I stayed out. The Marine Corps brought me out here in 2008. Brought me out to Arizona. I was stationed in Yuma, and I moved up here in 2012. And I'm from back east. I'm from Maryland, where tobacco country and the military industrial complex collide. And dude, I had no interest in getting back to the East Coast hustle. Where like this conversation right here, right now, this is late for me now, and to do business, anything entrepreneurial involves like late nights, candlelight, dark places, the beltway traffic is a whole nother deal. And like you said, it's established and the gatekeepers are there, and that's that. And I would come up, I'm vibing with you so much on why I stayed here. Because I just felt the energy of opportunity here was alive and still is almost 15 years later. So I totally feel you on that compared to everywhere else I've ever been.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Where was AI when you jumped in?
So I did go.
Let me back up. AI as we know it in the ChatGPT sense of leverage. Where was that when you jumped in?
So to take a step back, I started my career we called it machine learning. I mean, it was AI, but it was machine learning. Like there was no AI jobs. There was maybe in Google DeepMind or a few places, but
give me a working example of machine learning for those who don't know.
You. So when I was 2018, I graduated. I got a degree in data analytics, and I worked in machine learning at the third biggest company in the country. Not very long. I was too entrepreneurial to sit in the cubicle forever, but I did my stint there and learned a lot. And so machine learning is it's essentially the same thing. It's just speaking to specifically like developing the black box algorithms that now everyone just understands what chat apps are. But AI is not just a chat application. AI is a data transformation tool, and so you can build AI or machine learning models that do lots of different things besides just give you text outputs, right? I was on a project in 2018 where we were using neural nets, which is a type of AI, to detect database intrusions. So it was kind of a cybersecurity use case. So we were like predicting database intrusions. We built a model that would tell us, hey, I predict that this, I'm flagging this like person who's interacting with this database because of all whatever factors are in its model, and it's flagging it. And it was interesting because it was like kind of magical to an extent, because we didn't know, and this is true with AI, like you don't fully know how the model is making its decisions. You understand like some of the math, you can see the math, but you train it and then it gives you things, and you only know like why it made that decision in retrospect. And so that really opened my mind to like how powerful this technology was going to become, when you can literally predict things that it would be impossible for a human to see. And then obviously, 4 years later, 5 years later, we had the ChatGPT moment, and everyone started using it for real. So,
damn. And is the ChatGPT thing, like you saw that coming, or is like I see the wave, I just don't know what it's going to look like?
yeah, I saw it coming at some point. I didn't know when. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like, but I saw it coming at some point. And so my thing was always to just kind of position myself for. I didn't know exactly what my path was going to be or what I was supposed to be doing with my life at 22, but I was like, it's my 20s. I should spend this time building relationships and skills and trying a bunch of different things, so that whenever I find that thing, this is like, this is my life's work, I'm well positioned to do it, versus like, oh, I've just been in corporate for 10 years. And, no offense to anyone who's in corporate, but for what I was trying to do, it was like I needed to put myself in a position to take advantage of it when I found it. So
yeah, it's very Think and Grow Rich.
yeah.
How you decided to leverage your 20s. I got time on my side. I got energy on my side. Let me just be curious in my endeavors and see what shows up. Is that accurate at all?
It's very accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. Who in your life path made that way of thinking okay for you? Because that's the type of thinking that if you were putting on our tinfoil hats, that society stifles over and over and over again. And I feel like in the circles that I'm being introduced to, the ones that you're immersed in, that's not the case. And I'm so genuinely curious, because it's such a diverse pool of individuals from here, there, and everywhere, who have like strategic tech backgrounds to, dude, I was just fucking with this on the weekends and here we are. What, like, who or what endorsed the way that you think?
So I would say the first person that opened my mind to the non-traditional, 40-year career and then you retire and die model of life, that, my parents' generation lived as the majority of what was normal. The first person that kind of expanded my mind beyond that was Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week. And I got into his podcast while I was in college working in IT, to kind of make my way through college. I found a good IT job, and I would sit and I would have a lot of time. So I would just sit and listen to podcasts while I was doing kind of mindless stuff. And it was him and a lot of his guests, and then Tony Robbins as well. I spent probably 6 months or so just pouring through a lot of the audio books, reading books, listening to podcasts, and then woke up and was like, okay, the path that I thought was my path doesn't have to be my path. And there's so much more that's possible out there.
You mentioned at the beginning, this word that I absolutely love. It's one of our core values, ownership. Right. This path that I thought was my own isn't really, not because it's wrong, but because I don't own it. Yeah. I didn't consciously decide to continue to walk this path. I just continued on the momentum that was built behind me and took life as it comes. Where's the ownership piece come from you? Where did you decide that you were going to do something different and take the path that you're on?
Yeah, I decided at 20, I was 22 at the time. And I just decided that at a certain point, it would be more painful to not take my own path and figure it out than to like keep going down this path that I knew wasn't what my soul wanted to do, wasn't lighting me up, wasn't really the best use of my time, energy, my talents. And so, but it's been a progressive journey too. So there was that moment when I took the entrepreneurial journey. I decided to take the path of an entrepreneur and build my own path from a work capacity. But I was definitely still a victim in many ways. I was definitely still, putting, in my early 20s, I was with multiple business partners that, didn't treat me the best because I was like, oh, they have, they were more successful and had relationships or different things. And not all of them were horrible people. Some of them were, but, we learned from those relationships the most. So it was definitely all for the greater good. But it took me years to progressively take ownership of more and more aspects of my life. And as I grew stronger in my sense of self, as I healed, and to your point, at the beginning of this podcast, did self work and figured out who I was and who I was not. And then as I stepped back more into my faith and having a grounding and a sense of service and purpose that lives outside of my, my small self, that allowed me to continue taking more and more ownership over every aspect of my life. And I'm still learning and being revealed different areas where I can take increased levels of ownership and responsibility. And I think anyone who rises in power and responsibility, you're never done. Like you're always going to be required of more if you're going to continue to grow and wield more power and responsibility. So
yeah. Do you see any, and I'm asking this question objectively because I'm genuinely curious about your perspective here because of the diverse experiences that you've had in your life path. Do you see at this point in your life any conflict between what you've taken from the psychedelic experience and where you've landed in your faith?
I've thought about that a lot, actually. And there's a couple things I'll say. I don't know that I'm not like the world's expert on this topic for sure. I just have my experiences and my opinions. So
perfect.
I just like to say that because people like to, you say something on a podcast and everyone's like, this is the opinion that he's putting out into the world. This is, just learn from my experiences, but I'm not telling you what to do. But I would say that they're psychedelics, specifically like mushrooms, psilocybin. There were certain experiences that I think there's a lot of evidence, like even scientifically, that these things can help you rewire your mind and get out of patterns and ruts. And so for me, when I first had a couple experiences, it was because I was still dealing with kind of depression and anxiety, not as bad as I was when I was in my teens, but my early 20s, I was still kind of like in these ruts that I would keep finding myself in. And so I followed Tim Ferriss and others that I looked up to and seeing like, oh, they're trying these new modalities and having really good results. And I found them to be, I definitely found them to be helpful in those moments in time. I do have a sense of caution around them where I'm at now. I mean, I certainly wasn't like following Christ all out at that point. I was never like denying Christ, but it was kind of like, I'm going to take my own path. Where I'm at now is, I think there's probably some benefit to certain psychedelic substances, especially like microdosing in capacity where you're using them to kind of like help your mind, your neurons grow new connections. I think there's some power there. That's really cool. I would be most careful about giving yourself over to something that you don't fully understand. And so that may include all psychedelics. It may not. My jury is still out on exactly what that looks like. For me, I've kind of backed off them a little bit. Although again, like I'm still open, I'm still not opposed to them. But what I am opposed to, I would say at this point is, going into specific traditions or like ceremonies or lineages where there is a cult like magic, there are rituals, there are shamanic things that are being practiced that are, clearly being sourced from a different spiritual walk and system than following Christ. I think that's where you have to find yourself like really questioning and being intentional about what spaces you're exposing yourself to, because there's people that have gone to ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff and like literally had bad shamans like put curses on them and stuff like that. And it's like, it's not a game. Like the spiritual world is not a game. And so I think I'm not saying never use psychedelics. I'm not telling you one way or another, but I would say, be very intentional with the things that you're surrendering yourself to. If you're not surrendering yourself to Christ, you're surrendering yourself to someone else or something else. And if you do that and you don't know what you're doing, that's probably not a good thing. So
yeah, well, I appreciate that fully, man. Thank you. My takeaway from the psychedelic experience in observation and lived experience, I was just having a conversation with a buddy of mine in that I look at psychedelics in the same way that I look at tattoos. And I have a shit ton of tattoos, but all of them were very intentional and I was called to it. And that shit's permanent. And I feel like my take on psychedelics is that these are permanently imprinted events that you are inviting into your life, whether that's your perception or intent or not. I believe that to be true. Now, to that end, you said it so beautifully, so eloquently. There's really two ends of the spectrum here, where you can use it to run from your shit, or you can use them to deal with your shit. And if you're not careful, especially in the recreational realm, you can find yourself running from a lot of stuff, and that we lose the intent of the medicine, if that's the word that we're going to use.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. So psychedelics are not, they're a tool like any medicine or any experience or modality. They're a tool, but they are not a solution. You are still responsible to the concept of ownership, right? It's like, I know people who have had beautiful experiences and grown tremendously and have used psychedelics. And I know people that use psychedelics to avoid taking responsibility for their own growth. And so it always still comes back to you.
So where's AI going, man? First of all, like I watched your reel today and I hadn't even thought about this, because that's where I'm at in the AI thing. I don't know what I don't know. And dude, you opened Pandora's box for me today, talking about the sovereignty of AI. First of all, when did you realize that this was an issue, before we get into why you're pursuing it and whatnot?
Yeah, 100%. It's been something that's been keeping me up at night for sure, the last few years especially. But it's a little deeper than AI. I would say it kind of goes back to my experience as a teenager who lived through the introduction of the smartphone and social media into the world in a major way. There was, Facebook when I was very young, but the social media explosion in the 2010s, it fragmented our reality in ways that we're still beginning to understand, and fundamentally changed human psychology. And what we realized is that we gave a lot of our power and a lot of pieces of ourselves we gave control over to platforms that we didn't control, and that didn't always have our best interests at heart. In fact, they didn't, right? In many cases, they censored us. There's been a lot of, revelation these past few years around the ways that social media and things of this nature that we filter our experience of reality through in many ways, because we're focusing and putting our attention there. We're seeing and perceiving people and events through these things. And so they're a filter for our experience of reality, and we give them our data, we give them a lot of things, and then it was then used to, advertise to us, and in some cases actually manipulate us and or do harmful things to us, like silence voices and push certain narratives and stuff. And so seeing all of that happen, not just the last few years of events, obviously, which were bad up until the latest presidential election for sure, but even in the 2010s, just seeing the impact that technology has, I realized how important it was to, again, to the theme of ownership, take back control of the things that are really extensions of ourselves, right? The phone is an extension of me. It's not embedded in my body, but it is effectively an extension of me. And if the more power that I'm giving away to things that I don't fully understand or that could be weaponized against me, right? It's just a worse. It's not because everyone's evil. It's just a worse system, right? It's just it's not optimal. And so with AI, AI is a far more powerful technology. I mean, you think about how Google and Instagram and Facebook are hyper targeting advertisements to you, and they know everything about you, right? Well, think about how much more powerful that's going to be with your ChatGPT history, with literal hyper intelligent AI models that know and can predict your most intimate thoughts, that know all of your IP, all your work, everything you're doing, right? It's a scary future if we are offloading our minds onto a digital extension of our minds that we don't control. And so, I mean, that's, I guess, the framing of the problem. I can go into how we're solving it, but it's just one of those things that you don't think about. And with technology, with emerging technology, we bring these things into the world and then we deal with the consequences later. But with AI, it's not a technology that we should put the consequences off until later, because there might not be a later. So
there's so much to unpack there, because the lens with which I was looking at your reel was of one initially oh, this is a legal intellectual property situation. And what upon further explanation, taking from this is also this is a consciousness issue.
Yeah.
If we are not careful, we are leaving ourselves to be to go through life at some point, if we offload enough, to be just go through life asleep at the wheel. Is that a consequence here?
There's a quote by the famous media theorist Marshall McLuhan from 50 plus years ago that says, we shape our tools and our tools shape us. And so if we are humans, we're always building new tools, but then those tools in turn shape us. We program AI and AI programs us. So do you want to be in control of the thing that's programming you, or do you want that to be in the hands of a powerful elite group of people that just decide how you're going to be programmed and how you're going to experience reality?
Well, there's a leap that I'm trying to make in my mind around this AI thing. Not that it's jumped the shark, because it's fucking here, but there's this, to your point about how we've augmented our reality to a certain extent. You walk out into the world, and the shit that you see online, and then your lived experience, human to human, they don't always line up. Would you agree?
I would, yeah.
Okay. So how do we not lose sight of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an impossible problem to hold in one person's mind and completely solve. It's something where it has to be a decentralized collective intelligence. It has to be a lot of people orienting towards a vision of the future that is pulling us together in ways that we're not going to fully understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be, I don't know if that makes sense. That might seem vague, but I like, to your point, perception isn't reality. Like our
Mm-hmm.
perception isn't reality. And that's one of the things that's brought me back to Christ, is like Christ is the word of God, which is reality. So like, if you don't have a base layer of reality that you're orienting towards, it's so easy to get pulled into things that are not reality, like to your perception and your emotions to be manipulated. And so that's kind of why, like, my thesis, my theory is, for AI to go well, it's not about like us engineering the perfect solution or like the perfect. I mean, I think we can do better with privacy and stuff, which obviously, like, that's what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of ways we could do better, but it's also going to be one of those things where, like, our technology is going to be a reflection of us as the creators. And so to the extent that we do the inner work, and to the extent that we're orienting towards the highest that is possible for us, we're going to produce AI systems that are ascending, that are like bringing more art, more beauty, more human potential into the world, versus if AI is just an extension of like the old, cutthroat social, political, legal systems, economic systems, right? It's going to be reflective of that, and then it's going to program us back into a deeper layer of that reality.
Mm-hmm. So, dude, I want to dive in right here in terms of, because this is the other end of the spectrum that I think, like, you of all people, at least in my circles, would have like tremendous insight on. How do we leverage AI to raise our consciousness?
That's a
in
good
in
question.
in the same way that people are pursuing or coming back to religion, leveraging psychedelic experiences, uh mastermind groups, like a lot of the shit that you find in old texts, like Think and Grow Rich, right? How do we take this new manifestation of what's old, that is AI, and use it as a tool in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to see it as a reflection of the self to an extent. If you're talking about individual usage of AI, like it's going to reflect things back at you. But then there's kind of like this imperfect observer problem. It's kind of the same thing that we get to with like meditation, when you realize, oh, like those thoughts that I had, like those weren't real, like those weren't me, those weren't reality, right? And there's going to be a lot of that with AI too, where it's like, I mean, even if you play enough with ChatGPT, like it hypes you up. It's going to like optimize for making you feel good, right? And sometimes you have to tell it, like, no, tell me the truth. Or sometimes it is just going to hallucinate, right? And so I think the way that we use it, it still comes back to, I think we can use it to free ourselves from a lot of tasks that humans were doing that were machine tasks, like tasks where we were putting ourselves into the role of like a cog in a machine. And if we can free ourselves up from a lot of these low level tasks that just aren't really doing anything for our souls, our spirits, for raising consciousness, or however you want to understand it, that gives us more time and more freedom to pursue higher order things, to kind of have a new renaissance of like, okay, well, if we're not working 120 hours a week putting data into spreadsheets, right? Like, what does it mean to be human anymore? If like I don't have to do that. And that's where I think the growth really happens. And then you can use AI as a tool to learn and grow and like give you access to information and all of these things. But I think it's more like what AI frees us to do versus what AI, it's not going to be like some magical insight. It's going to be more the freedom to really step out of the old world and system. That makes sense.
Yeah, I had Kirk Artman. Do you know him? He's the I refer to him as the AI DJ. I had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he came from music into skydiving into AI innovation in what he's doing. And I met him at the same event that I met you at. And he was, his take on this whole thing is much to the point that you just made, if I don't have to do all that stuff, how much time and energy, bandwidth, and capacity do I have to, at the very least, entertain the things that I truly desire? And he had this really interesting take on the reallocation of wealth and capital, not so much from a monetary standpoint, but from a frequency standpoint. If we reshuffle the deck and everybody that would have otherwise just simply gone to college, got a degree they don't give a shit about, or somehow, some way found their way to a trade, if they were able to, because of this higher level of freedom, were able to find their way to their passion and highest utility sooner, how much better do we become? And then we can leverage the this AI movement alongside that. That's a really interesting idea to me.
Yeah, it's pretty in line, yeah, with what we were just talking about. I would say, like the freedom aspect of it is big, right? Like if you're not spending, if you can increase your feedback loop gets faster, right? So like you see this in business, like for building AI businesses, like I built some different applications and things, or work with a number of clients who are building applications and help them kind of get their models out there. And over the last 5-6 years, and the feedback loops keep getting like faster. What used to take like 6 months is now like a week, right? Or like you can spin up an application and go like get feedback, get validation, see if your business is going to stick in like a very short amount of time, where it used to take years. And it's still like with some of the bigger corporations I've worked with, there's kind of this dissonance between like this corporate model is like a 5-year plan, but it's like my startup, it's like we're changing week to week. Like we're like the thing that would have taken a team of engineers at a large company 6 months is now like a 2-week sprint, because we can just move so much faster. And so you're almost like the limitation is really the old ways of doing things. Whether that's like the education system or all these systems we're talking about. Not that they're all like evil, but they just need to evolve to make room for what's possible now with this technology.
What do you think prevents people from exploring what's possible?
I think part of it is fear. Part of it is definitely like just the fear of the unknown, or the fear of trying and putting themselves out there, like the fear of failure. I mean, that's always a big one. Part of it is just lack of knowledge, lack of really fully grasping the power that's at their fingertips. And part of it is self-imposed limitations. You can go in any direction, but if you're like, for example, you can start a business, but you may have an internal limitation or block or pattern from your childhood that says like, rich people are evil. And so you block yourself from succeeding. And so a lot of it, that is another way that I think AI speeds up self-growth, is that because the feedback is so much faster in whatever you're building, you're either going to like deceive yourself and stay stuck faster, like wake up and be confronted with reality and choose to grow and evolve faster, which is great. So
sick. What are the how do I want to approach this? Personal or professional? Let's go personal first. What are the ways in which people could be leveraging AI for their own personal development that they're not?
I think that the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is figuring out, like using AI as a thought partner, as a way to take your ideas and take your, like, whatever it is that, whether you're journaling, whether you're building a business, whatever you're a creative of some sort, use it as a thought partner to like shape and evolve your ideas, and like give them structure. It's not always the best. Like sometimes it'll come up with a great idea, but it's not that AI is like this magical idea generator, but it can help you take things that are raw and chaotic and unstructured and just like put them into structure and form faster, which for me has been really helpful because I have lots of ideas and like can bounce all over the place. And so I'm like, okay, I can organize. You got to organize that somehow. It's like your second brain. It literally is your second brain, which could include your note taking and other stuff too. But you take your projects or take your, like, here's my biohacking and here's my, like studying the Bible or whatever your personal growth like activities are, and here's like the business I'm building, and put them into different folders in ChatGPT or Claude, or eventually hopefully Covenant tools where it's fully private, but and use that to kind of organize different aspects of your life. And I found that to be really powerful because you can just kind of keep this running, like externalization of your brain, not a replacement, because you don't want to rely on AI to think for you, but you can use it to organize your projects in a way that, like, previously maybe you had them in documents or something, but now you have all these living threads that are dynamic. You can talk to them versus they're just this static thing. So
nice. Is there? Okay, so let's jump over to what you're actually doing.
Cool.
Yeah, hell yeah. What? So sovereignty is an issue, like privacy, downloading or uploading your consciousness, quote unquote, into ChatGPT or Claude, Grok, all the other ones. That is essentially open source. Yeah, when at the end of the day, like somebody else has access to it or can access it.
So open source is open source refers to, like, is the code open or not?
Okay.
So, like, can I go, if software is open source, it means that I can go take that code and I can see it, I can read it.
Okay.
The ironic thing that everyone's pointed out these past few years with open AI, Elon likes to play on this, is that it's not actually open. And to their credit, they have released a few open source models recently, but most of these large AI studios, their AI is not open, meaning like you can't take the weights, you can't take the code, you got to go through their systems, right? It's a walled like garden, a closed ecosystem. And so the issue becomes that, like, for an individual, it's, do you want to own your mind, right? If your mind is now, if AI is an extension of your mind, then if I don't own that infrastructure, if I'm putting all my most intimate thoughts, my business ideas, I have AI agents that are running my social medias or like doing really powerful things for me. If I don't own that, then it's kind of like, that could be shut off at any point, or that company could say like, oh, I don't like this person, or they could change, the back end, they could change the narrative around some piece of information in there. You might not even know. You're just giving it a lot of, it's like if you had a chip in your brain that was like telling you stuff, and then you had a company that could just change the things that, it's like Wikipedia, they could just edit it and like your reality is now shifted. That's kind of a scary thing. And then there's also like the reality that these companies get hacked, data gets out there. Like, you don't want, if someone could go into your house and steal all your journals, your hard drives, and like everything that you've been working on for the past 10 years, you probably wouldn't feel very good about that, right?
Right.
But that's kind of, we're living in an ecosystem where not only is that the norm, but it's pretty likely that there's a government backdoor that's doing something with that right now, right? So it's an invasion of privacy, but it's also a lack of psychological safety. Like, if you know that, even if you don't fully grasp it, like, you're going to feel that energetically. I think like there's an energy to that. If you're using a system that doesn't have your best interests at heart, or it's usurious, it's like, hey, come use me, I'm cheap, but like I'm doing something with your data that you don't fully understand on the back end. Like, that's not an aligned system. And spiritually, there's consequences to that, right? And so there's levels to it. And then the other part is like, well, that's the individual, but what about a business, right? Well, if a business in the future, a business is going to be two things. It's going to be whatever the product or service that business does, and then it's going to be like a set of AI models that hold the core IP, the core operations, like the core brain of that business in a really powerful AI model, or really a set of multiple models probably. And so like if your business, your core IP, your moat, like your competitive moat is all the things that you're putting into that AI. Like say you're the best in your industry at whatever it is that you do, and you're putting all that into your AI. And now, OpenAI decides that, okay, well, we got to beat China in this AI race. So like, we just have to train on these guys' data, and like, we'll just ask for forgiveness later, or they'll sue us. But like, we have infinite money, so it doesn't matter. And now your competitive moat is now in an AI model out there, and now you have no moat, right? Because anyone can go replicate what you do. That's a corporate innovation problem. That's a real security. It's a security problem for one, because you're not controlling your data, it can get hacked, et cetera. But then it's like these companies can then leverage you. They have power over you. And again, it's not to say that everyone's evil and they're going to use that in a bad way, but it's just a more fragile system. It's like if every single company that's being built now like has a few overlords that control them, it's like that's probably not a really good free and open society. And so the alternative is like what we're building, and there's other people that are building good infrastructure too, and I hope we're not the only ones that build really good tech, but we have a platform where you can deploy. Right now, it's for developers first. You can deploy an encrypted model, and we give you a key where essentially it's like your Bitcoin wallet. If you have that key, only you can access the data and the weights of that model. So you actually own, like we literally can't access your model or do anything with it because it would just be encrypted, gobbledygook, whatever. And so that's really, in the way that our technology works, it's essentially like the same as talking to an unencrypted model. It doesn't cost way more. It's like slightly longer to deploy, but once it's out there, it's like, it's not very, there's no cost or performance overhead for the most part. And that's what's groundbreaking about what we're doing, because most of the other AI security solutions out there are just extremely expensive or impractical for most people, even most companies, to use. And so we're bringing that to market with the hope of making fully sovereign AI, where like if you have your personal Jarvis, you should own that, or your company should own that fully and have total control over that. We're making that possible for as many people as possible.
Nice. How long do we have to wait for Covenant to show up in the mainstream?
Yeah, so we're fundraising right now, and we're having a lot of conversations, have some pretty cool advisors with a lot of Silicon Valley background connections. We are in a closed beta right now, so we are working with a handful of developers. So if you're a developer, if you're and you could be a vibe coder too, but if you're building with AI models and you want access, please hit me up, and I will give a few more people access. We have some room, but it is somewhat capped right now because we're still in a research phase. Likely next year, when we scale our compute resources, we'll be able to start offering our infrastructure to more companies and more people. Not that we can deploy for any company right now.
Yeah,
it's just we're trying to be intentional with who we work with at this early stage. But in the next couple years, you'll start to see more like public products that anyone like yourself could go pick up and use. Versus right now, it's really focused for developers, or like if we work with a company that has a private contract with us.
Got you. You dropped a nugget in there, and I have to lay myself upon the feet of the giant I'm talking to right now. What is vibe coding, man?
No, that's a great question. Vibe coding is coding with AI. So like, there's a lot of people right now that are building stuff that don't really know how to code, but they don't. You don't really have to build a lot of things. Like if you're going to get really deep, you do. But you can build a lot of stuff by going to like Lovable is one, or Replit. There's these tools out there where essentially you tell AI what you want to build and it builds it for you. And that's like vibe coding, because it's like you don't have to learn everything. You just go talk to AI, it codes, it's vibes, it's fun. So yeah,
Oh, that's cool. Nice. I also feel like that's a very uh that could be a very useful resource for like a personal an explorative activity that would be tremendously useful between what you're building strategically with Covenant and like just passion projects and things that you're genuinely curious about. Like, what's the ratio between that and like vibe coding for you?
yeah, I'm not. Well, I guess I probably do a lot more than the average person. I would say I'm probably doing it a few hours a week. For
What?
me, vibe coding, like, because I do have a technical background, so like I guess I can't really fully put myself in the vibe coder category, but essentially that's what I'm doing for the most part, because I'm not really focused. I'm more focused on running the business and selling the vision and fund
Mm-hmm.
in these things. Than my CTO Tyler is a genius, and he's the one who's like day in day out in the edge of AI research, right? And
Yeah.
so I use it, like I like to like be really hands on with websites for stuff that I'm like really controlling in the early stages. And so like I built our website, but it was all vibe coding for the most
Yeah.
part. It's helpful if you know some terminology, you can kind of know what to ask it. But and then I do, so Covenant is like my main startup right now, but Ascendance is my venture studio that
Okay.
really where a Covenant came out of, and that's what I've been running and operating for the past 4 years or so. And
Mm-hmm.
so I still have kind of an ecosystem there. And so that's kind of where, long-term Ascendance is going to become this ecosystem for building aligned emerging technology companies. And Covenant is like, it's a defined thing. It's going to run its course, and we're going to make it really big, and it's going to be awesome. But it's not the first, it's not going to be the last company I built either. So I'm
Yeah.
all playing around with ideas and things, but you can only really like hardcore focus on one or two things at a time. So
I feel that for sure. Yeah. I have a million ideas a minute. I get it.
yeah.
Will, dude, thank you so much for just your presence, your energy, your wisdom as we move into this new age of AI, man. Where can our audience find you, learn from you, connect with you, brother?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Instagram is where I have the most following, I guess, but I'm trying to get more on Twitter, TikTok. But you can find me at King William. It's KingWillXM. So like William with an XM instead of IAM. And yeah, I have a Substack. I post thoughts and articles when I feel like it. Starting to post more consistently, content as well. Right now, I'm kind of in a sprint right now to ramp up the personal brand. So yeah, I would love to chat. Would love to see anyone who's interested in talking more about this stuff on social. Shoot me a DM, and happy to talk.
That's what's up, man. I appreciate you, brother. For everybody out there, go follow Will. Check out what he's got going on. Ascendance and Covenant, groundbreaking, making things happen. And go head over to Coach Durs. You can see all the blogs, all the episodes as they debut, and subscribe to Progress Always on Spotify. Remember, to be the fittest leader, it requires integrity, courage, and ownership, but alignment has to come first. Until next time, Progress Always.